Hey, Ryan, the Plan Man here, setthebase.triathlon.com. Here to do some quick tips on a little bit of a rainy Monday morning here in Kansas City if you're watching this live. If you are watching this live, I've got comments open up on one screen, so if you've got any questions while we're doing the videos, feel free to throw them up there. Try to get them answered during the video. If not, if you see this later, put questions in there. I'll get back to them later. So with that, I'm going to jump in really quick, make this quick, painless, and seamless as possible. And today I've had a few questions come up from different athletes about their higher heart rates in their long, slow runs and kind of what's going on. So with everything in triathlon, it's not exactly a straightforward answer. There's some different things going on. Everybody's individual. There's just different circumstances, different climates, different terrains, all kinds of different variables. But I'm going to give you kind of some overall, just run-of-the-mill kind of things that could be popping up to maybe kind of check into. So with that, we're going to jump right in. Number one fact about life is that you get older over time. So as you get older in age, your body gets older as well, no matter how much you want to deny it or don't agree with it. It's just nature. So as you get older, your body has to work probably a little bit harder to do the same things as when you're 45, as when you were 25. 20 years does make a difference. So even though you may be consistent with your training and activity, just over time, your body just kind of gets older and it becomes a little bit more difficult to do the things it was used to doing in a more efficient level. So even, don't get all bent out of shape. You're like, oh, my heart rate is just kind of going up in my workouts and whatever, and I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to train harder. I'm going to run faster. That may not necessarily be the best activity to do, the best way to improve situation. It may just be a fact of, as long as you're going to consistently, like your primary care physician, doing your checkups and stuff, and they're like, yeah, nothing's really going on. You're just getting kind of older. Just be ready for that. That over time, it's just going to change. It's just going to shift. It's just going to adjust. No matter how fit you are and how consistent you are in your training, age just takes a toll. Number two, for women, are you postmenopausal? So this does make a difference. Obviously I'm a guy, but when this happens, there's all kinds of adjustments, all kinds of changes, and I'm not going to dive into it. I'm not a physician. I am married though. I've seen it. I've been around the medical field and medical people, and we've discussed a little bit here and there, not to get too deep into it, but it does make a difference. It does change things. If you're postmenopausal, you're a woman, and you're just like, I'm getting frustrated, my heart rate's higher, my slow runs, even though I slowed down my pace and whatever. Again, talk to your primary care, make sure you got a good game plan, make sure they're checking everything, make sure everything's all in order, and it could just be kind of one of those things that, and we may go over it later, especially in the COVID, situation, pandemic, and all that. A lot of my athletes post-COVID have just a higher heart rate, and it's like that for months. It's just your body kind of getting over it, kind of recovering, and whatever the virus has done to your body. Kind of same situation, postmenopausal age, things like that, just kind of changes the dynamics of the biology of the body. And it's just kind of something you're going to have to manage and deal with, unfortunately. So keep that in mind. Number three, for men, has your testosterone level dropped over time? Again, this kind of comes with age. If you find yourself a little bit more tired, a little bit more lethargic and stuff like that, and your doctor says, oh, everything else checks out, you haven't had your testosterone levels checked, it could be dropping significantly to the point where your physician may prescribe something to intervene to kind of help keep the levels up. So that might help you in the long run. So just like I said, the theme is always check your physician to make sure there's no underlying conditions or anything. But for men, as you age, or even if you're not aging, it could be a situation where you just kind of have lower testosterone for whatever reason, and it's just kind of popped up out of nowhere, or it could be kind of a sign of underlying conditioning that you need to go to your physician and talk about. So for guys, if you got a low testosterone, it could end up showing up as a higher heart rate on your long, slow runs. Even if you reduce the pace and whatever, your body's still working a little bit harder because things are going on that don't support the system like it used to. Number four, are you hydrated? Something simple and straightforward, finally. You don't have to necessarily go and talk to your physician, but you can see after your runs, if you go to the bathroom and your pee is very dark yellow, it's a sign you're severely dehydrated. So you want to make sure that when you're done with your long runs, you're still pretty hydrated. You don't want to lose more than 2 to 3% of your body weight in sweat. Like I said, during training is your best time to go out there and do the long runs to kind of test it out, kind of train, kind of find out what your limits are and how much maybe your sweat rate loss is over time. So just make sure you're staying hydrated, because if you're getting dehydrated towards the end, your body's going into survival mode. to saying, oh man, we don't have enough fluids to make it through. This crazy guy or crazy woman is keep doing this, so we keep losing fluids, and there's going to be a point where we're not going to have enough to keep the systems going. So we're going to start upping the heart rate, so hopefully it makes them tired, so they stop doing what they're doing. So your body's trying to tell you something. Just see if you're hydrated or not. That's a good key. So number 5, have you had an illness recently? I talked about COVID a little bit, flu, cold, COVID, RSVs going around with the kids back in school. All these different little things can, maybe it doesn't show up big and you're not totally wiped out or anything like that, but just that's just a nice small underlying situation where you're just maybe a little bit sick, or even allergies sometimes. Your body's trying to fight off or ward off something, and in the background it kind of spikes up the heart rate to counteract anything that's going on as far as the illness goes with the body. So just be aware of that and pay attention for that. Number 6, make sure you get your tests done. So tests, as far as there's a couple different methodologies to find the testing. So fitness testing is good because this gives you kind of a marker over time, especially, like I said, with age, with everything else that's changing and going on, that if you don't have markers as far as like a fitness test and you're just kind of over time, it's like, well, 3 years ago I could do it at this heart rate, not at this heart rate. Well, that might have happened overnight. You just didn't kind of notice until it got substantially different. Over time, it might have increased 1 to 2 beats per minute, 2 to 3 beats per minute, and just over years, it kind of adds up. So it's something that if you weren't getting your fitness test done to kind of benchmark those markers and FTP and VO2 max and all that kind of fun stuff, it's kind of hard to see it over a long period of time. But if you're marking that and you're measuring it and you're looking over time, you look back in history, you're like, I kind of see it coming. Even on my training assistant and everything like that, I'm still doing my events. It's just, time marches on, and that's what's kind of happening. So make sure you do your fitness test. Number 7, did you take some time off? So for whatever reason, life happens sometimes. Maybe you got done with your season, and then November, December, and January just kind of hodgepodge, helter-skelter, whatever you can get done during the holidays and kids stuff going on, and family stuff, and whatever's going on. Finally, you kind of get back into it in February, March, and you're like, man, there's a substantial difference. Well, unfortunately, if you take a little bit of time off, you're going to lose a little bit of fitness. Usually, if you're going 2 to 3 weeks and you're not doing anything substantial as far as fitness goes, you're going to start declining pretty significantly in your fitness. So just expect that, and life happens. Just know on the other side, you may not just be able to pick it up right where you left off. It's kind of like riding a bike. You should be able to keep running again, but you may not be as fit as you were when you kind of got done with your season or whatever you're doing beforehand. So keep that in mind. Number 8, did you move? That's why I go back to, it's not because you move, carry boxes, and you wore yourself out and you're recovering. It's because you move climate. Did you go from sea level to Boulder, Colorado to a mile high or something like that? Or have you gone from high elevations to low elevations? Have you gone from dry, arid climate to humid climate? All that does make a significant difference, especially with the climate, with terrain. Maybe you live in a more hilly area now. Maybe you moved across town, but there's more hills. And you're just like, my long run just wasn't what it used to. Well, if you have to work a little bit harder, it's kind of understandable. So maybe you have a little bit more flat terrain than where you live now. So kind of keep that in mind too. If you make a significant move and the terrain and the climate is different, maybe not substantially different, but just enough different, if there's 5 to 10 degrees heat difference, 5 to 10% humidity difference or something like that, that'll show up in your heart rate when you go out there and do those long extended periods of working out and stuff. So just keep that in mind. So these are kind of the short and sweet points that I've gone over with my athletes that I've seen kind of affect their training, their heart rate over the long runs. And maybe things that kind of get you thinking, oh, maybe that's it, or at least get you to your primary care and be in there on a consistent basis, like once a year, doing your checkups, doing your yearly evaluation, just making sure that everything's on board and you got everything, you keep track of it, your doctor knows what's going on. If you don't have a primary care, get one, and that will at least, and do your fitness testing, so that way you at least have benchmarks. You look back over time and like, well, yeah, I was here, 10 years ago, and now I'm here, or I was here 2 years ago, and now I'm here. What's changed? I moved from Kansas City up to Boulder, Colorado, or I moved from Boulder, Colorado to Louisiana, where it's like hot and humid, where it wasn't in Boulder. So just significant things over time can change, or just a significant change in a short period of time can also change what your heart rate looks over the long run. So that, I want to wrap it up. I didn't see any questions in the comments here while I was doing it live. If you see this later in a replay, Facebook, YouTube, do a comment. I'll answer your questions. Give it a like on Facebook if this helped you out. Give it a like and subscribe on YouTube. You've seen it later and you like this content, and you get more, hit the notification button to see future videos that I post out there. So I want to close and wrap up this video. And with that, hopefully it helped you out. Happy training out there, and we'll see you out on race day.